And now with our production here in the Americas, we have a shorter lead time, closer nearshoring for our customers. This will, I think, be advantageous in the long run strategically.
The Uniformer. Insights and interviews into the people and companies that drive the markets for uniforms, image apparel, and public safety equipment. The Uniformer is a production of the Network Association of Uniform Manufacturers and Distributors, the NAUMD.
Well, hello, everybody. Jeff Mason coming to you from the NAUMD Uniformer podcast. And we are very fortunate today to be here with Charles Wang of Winnitex. Charles, hello. How are you today, sir?
Very good, Jeff. How about you?
Very good. Thank you. Thanks so much for taking the time out to join us today. And we're very excited to talk a little bit about what, Winnitex and the things you're doing in the uniform space. And I think there's a lot of listeners out there that'll really enjoy hearing from this 59-year-old company. Am I right on that?
That's right. That's right. Turning 60 next year.
Wow, that is absolutely terrific. And Charles, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the business, and we'll just we'll kind of roll a little bit, roll from there.
Yeah, I got into the business in a rather convoluted way. I studied medicine, actually. I grew up in Michigan, went to U of M, and then went to Wayne State School of Medicine, and I never thought I'd get into textiles. It's the family business of my wife, and her grandfather founded the company. And after med school, actually, that's the time where I saw some inefficiencies in the medical system. And I was thinking about getting an MBA. And I talked to my father-in-law, talked to my family, and they said, boy, you've been in school a long time. And you get an MBA, you're going to be in there a lot longer. You're a young man, you have a family now. You better do something. And they suggested that I work and learn. They said, business is not difficult, you need to learn. So I thought about that and I agree with them. So I went to McKinsey and I first started in their healthcare department. And then I went into their energy, which was based in China. At that time, McKinsey was doing a lot of factory turnarounds, helping SOEs privatize and list. And I got involved in a couple of those projects. And my role there was best practice. So I went through basically what McKinsey does for best practice for manufacturing. We try to implement those things and suggest those things to our clients. And I talked to my father-in-law about what I was doing. He said, that's interesting, but McKinsey just leaves a paper trail, right? You don't follow through. We got some factories. If you have some ideas, why don't you try it out? I thought, that's interesting. So I said, okay, I'll give it a try. And then 15 years went by. And here I am now.
Incredible. Well, that is really, not too many. I don't think too many people enter into the uniform textile manufacturing base coming from an aspiration to be a doctor. That's for sure.
Yeah. Life gives you different opportunities.
Sure.
And, there are people that ask me, well, do you feel you wasted a lot of your time studying medicine? You worked so hard, you got all your licenses. And I said, no, because at the end of the day, those challenges, those processes in life, you internalize and you can use them in every aspect of life. And especially for business, I believe for business, it's about finding solutions. You find a lower energy input solution that currently maybe is higher energy input, and then you gain some profit from that energy difference. And that's what really medicine business is about, is solving problems. And that's what I enjoy.
Absolutely. Well, very cool vantage point. I love it. And and folks, I just have to, this is really special for me because when I was at the NAUMD conference, I ran into a young lady who happens to be your wife, and Yvonne. And I said, hello, Winnitex. Wow. I'm familiar with Winnitex. Do you know Jacob? Wow. And she said, well, that's my father. And so interestingly enough, I had been in the Winnitex offices in Hong Kong back in 1996. I sourced fabric from Winnitex on 2 occasions for some Target private label programs I was doing. So I had some familiarity with the company and with the, really, it was a very professional enterprise back in 1996 when I believe I met Jacob. And it's, and it just was really interesting that here I meet Yvonne at the NAUMD conference, and lo and behold, and I kid you not, the twill pants that I wore on the night of the awards were a pair of slacks using Winnitex fabric. I kid you not.
Wow. Thank
So
you. Thank
yeah,
you.
isn't that funny? So I had that story to share as well. So I thought that was pretty cool. Well, I'm sure a lot of the listeners out there, you're a new name, Winnitex, to the uniform space, certainly to NAUMD, not really the uniform space, but NAUMD. So if you could, Charles, tell the listeners a little bit about the Winnitex story, if you might.
Well, Winnitex was founded by Yvonne's grandfather, so Jacob's father. He, during basically the Republic period, before the takeover by the communists, he moved from China to Hong Kong, and he worked in Hong Kong, started in the textiles business, and decided to open his own company. We started our first production in Hong Kong in 1964. And then that went quite well, especially during that time, textiles was big in Hong Kong. And then in the mid 90s, around 95, we started our first production site in China, which is in Hangzhou, about an hour outside of China. At that time, I was dating Yvonne back in college, and we visited the site. And I remember it took about 5 hours from Shanghai to Hangzhou. Small roads, I think there was a ferry in the middle. It was quite a trek.
Sure.
But now by high-speed rail, it takes about half an hour from Shanghai to Hangzhou. So China has changed a lot, especially infrastructure-wise. That went very well. And then in 2003, we opened our second factory, which is in Shaoxing near Hangzhou. And that went well, especially around that time, China joined the WTO. So business for textiles, for our business, was doing very well, and for China as well. And now we have sites all across the world, in China, in Vietnam, in Nicaragua, and we're also looking at other sites in the Central America, Mexico region as well. And the Americas will be specifically focused on servicing our North American customers, especially workwear.
So we're really talking now about an enterprise that, as you mentioned, 3 global locations, 3,000 employees. Traditionally, your fabric assortment has been more bottom weight and all wovens, correct? Is that right?
Correct. It's mainly bottom weight wovens, and 3,000 was maybe in China itself, but we have probably each site is about 3,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So more than that. Okay. I
Yes.
read that wrong. Wow. Very, very cool. So what would you consider today, just for the uniform, dealers and manufacturers listening, what is your proficiency or core competency as we talk today?
I think for us, the key is we really have an understanding of the market, and we adapt very quickly. And more importantly, we service our customers very well. The market's constantly changing, and even with workwear, things are changing as well. Customers want something more comfortable, more fashion oriented. This is our kind of bread and butter because we came from the fashion industry. So this is something that we're very familiar with, that we can provide excellent solutions while understanding the requirements of our workwear customers. And the second is we have an international team that understands the mentality and the market of our customers so that we can develop products for them specifically. And now with our production here in the Americas, we have a shorter lead time, closer nearshoring
Sure.
for our customers. This will, I think, be advantageous in the long run strategically.
Yeah, nice. And you were explaining yesterday, we had a little conversation yesterday or a couple of days ago that, in Nicaragua, especially, so in the 807 region, you've really got the ability from where you are to ship to either the Pacific side of the sea or the Atlantic side of the sea. And
Correct.
and your work in process time is a little bit less than some other options out there because you're a vertical operation, correct?
Correct, absolutely. Our locations will be vertical, spinning, weaving, dyeing, and finishing. And then this we will can ship to our partner garment factories in the region, whether it's ones owned by our end customers or ones that are independent. And we can take resources from both sides, whether it's the Pacific or the Caribbean side, and we can ship out from both sides.
Yeah.
So it decreases the lead time and it's secure. Sometimes, so we saw during COVID, even if one was able to pay for it, there was just such uncertainty that may happen. And now that we're closer, we decrease that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's great because I think in our business, we certainly want to look at the work in process times. It's very important. And, this option now in Nicaragua collapses some of that work in process time, tightens it up and allows us to, have a speed to market that's a little bit more advantageous than relying on the Asian hemisphere to or the, subcontinent to do the production. So, yeah, so that's very cool. Now, and I noticed in our last conversation, which really was really great, is you mentioned that your cotton, most of it, or if not all of it, is purchased from the U.S. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. Especially for the Americas here, we purchase only American cotton. And it's very advantageous for us because it's close. And I think it's a great story because we buy from the American farmers, we produce it, and the workwear we ultimately create for our end customers will go back into the economy in the U.S.
Yeah. No, I think it's very important for all of us to know that here that that's where you're sourcing it from. So primarily you are your cotton is your main fiber of craftsmanship, and then you obviously do cotton blends, so cotton poly, poly cotton.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, correct. Cotton poly, poly cotton with some nylon.
Well, and it's a campus setup, so the environment down there and is one where you actually house a lot of the workers, and you engage in feeding them and housing them, and everything's centralized right there for a great day of work, right?
Yes, absolutely. Our staff, if we could provide housing for them, that's the best way because we want our workers to feel stable. We want them to feel at home on the campus, and we want to give them a safe environment for them and for their families. Some of these countries, unfortunately, they've experienced some bad times, and we want to give them an alternative compared to some of the worst options out there.
Sure. Well, you're wanting to help train young men and women to have a leg to stand on, as far as a skill set for their careers and to provide for their families. It's a noble it's a noble aspiration, and you're certainly delivering on it. And folks, if anybody wants to see it, winnitex.com, WINN ITEX.com, and you can look around there. You can see the campuses. The square footage is obviously very expansive, and you can get an idea for what everything looks like in China and Vietnam and certainly Nicaragua. It's really impressive. Very cool. So Charles, what is your role with the company? What do you do on a daily basis?
I am the Chief Operations Officer. So on the daily basis, basically, I look at the operational aspects of each location, and that is quite a wide variety of tasks. I have a lot of different hats. I look at the purchasing of raw materials. From the other end, I work with the end customer. I even work with some of the R&D. I make sure production is smooth. Each country has its own issues, whether sometimes there's labor, sometimes there's other issues that come up. Sometimes it's machines, sometimes sourcing. So every day it's problem solving, and every day it's something new and interesting.
Well, you folks, you can't see Charles' smile on his face, but going back to the McKenzie story, I can see problem solving is something that lights you up, and I think is that what gets you out of bed in the morning?
Yes, absolutely. That's one thing I really enjoy because for this business, there's always something changing. Textiles, it sounds like, well, it's just fabric, but actually there's constantly new things happening. So for us, it's very interesting, and I enjoy solving the new problems daily and tackling and meeting new people. So that's a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And you do welcome customers, anybody who is interested in sourcing fabric from Winnitex. I mean, they could make a trip down to Nicaragua, or if they're in the Asian hemisphere, they could visit the facilities, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Just contact me. I'll arrange for them to visit. Any customers that want to get to know us, please contact Yvonne and myself. We're happy to host them. And actually, during COVID, one of the projects I did was to create videos for our different sites. So we have a corporate video and then a video of each of our locations, production locations. And actually, it's a 360 video. So if they had 3D glasses, they can actually go through it virtually.
And speaking of COVID, I mean, what did Winnitex learn from that pandemic, experience? What did you learn, and how did you change from that?
I think COVID really accelerated what was going to happen in the 5 to 7 year time frame. I think that was compressed into 2 3 years. Basically, we learned that, well, there's going to be a separation, let's say, between China and the US. We have to be careful about our logistics. We have to find ways to develop a full solution, like a industrial park that's fully vertical on this side of the hemisphere. And also, we have to be a little bit more careful with COVID, how we do our inventory, how we have to be even more leaner than before.
Sure. Yeah, it really makes you realize that, the other thing a lot of manufacturers have realized, not only do you have to be leaner than the before, but on the certainly retail side of the fence, and some of the e-commerce businesses and some of the dealers, they really realized inventory became king during that time. And
Yes.
you had to look at your inventory positions much differently, and perhaps devote more dollars to having. Was that the same thing on the raw materials side of the fence for you guys?
Yes, raw materials prices got quite high.
Sure.
And it's actually, from my perspective, it's a balance, because what we saw was that some of the customers, our customers, they were in such a rush to get the inventory, and they accumulated quite a bit. And then after COVID, after we came out of COVID, things slowed down a little bit,
Sure.
and then they had more inventory than they expected. So
Sure.
I think a more of a holistic view, I think that's another lesson from COVID, to have a holistic view of your inventory and your planning for the next 6 months to a year plus out.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting statement, because, certainly raw materials, I think a lot of us fell into I wouldn't say a trap, but we fell into a lane of traffic where we operated just in time in a lot of cases. And I
Yeah.
just don't think that JIT mentality is fit for this day and age.
Yeah, I agree with you. And especially, I think throughout the supply chain, I think from all the way from the cotton farmer to the end customer, we have to figure out how we work together to grow this pie together. And that means communicating. That means also sharing some risk and planning together.
So on the people side of the fence, on the human resource side, what lessons did you learn from the pandemic? And I mean, and how have you, as a global entity, looked at your human resources differently?
I think I'm a lot more familiar with Zoom than I ever was before. And now
True.
that basically most of our meetings are done on Zoom. So that's very interesting for me, that now uh, our communications are more electronic,
Yeah.
which actually brings a high efficiency if it's done properly.
Sure.
That's one. I think the second is, I think, again, through COVID, understanding people, managing people well, and finding, you get to see what people, their mindset are, how well of a plan they have, whether it's with our company or others, by going through something like COVID.
Yeah.
Some people were a little too conservative at the times. Some people were a little too optimistic or negative.
Yeah.
So that kind of again, basically shortening that time frame, where we would have learned this process in 3 to 5 years, we learned it in 1 or 2.
So retention of people, this has certainly been a, there's a lot of vacancies in the staff, in various staffs across our landscape of the uniform industry, and retaining good people at companies has been a pressing issue. How does Winnitex address that today?
I think as a company develops, as a country develops, as a company develops, that landscape changes. For us, one, we're a family-owned business, so our staff have been with us, a lot of our staff, since graduating from college, and the
Wow.
key is to keep people with us, people we trust. We treat them like family, and we want that kind of culture to spread,
Yeah.
even within the factories. We want them to feel at home, and I think that's a key importance, that we have the right people. It's always really about the quality of the people.
Wow.
And if there are, let's say, certain managers or individuals that may be top performers, but they may not have the personality to give that comforting atmosphere, those are not the people that's right for us.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite important.
Do you put a lot of weight on the hiring process, making sure you get the right fit in a person for the company that you are?
Absolutely. I think really it's about the individual, because if the individual is somebody that's willing to learn, that can adapt, that works hard, that have the right ethics, they will be successful in whatever they do. So once they enter our company, we'll find a right niche for them, and they'll find what's right for themselves. But the key is that individual. This is something that we can't teach. We can teach them the technical stuff, but this is something they have in themselves. This is something that their family taught them, and that's what I think we want.
I appreciate all that feedback, and Charles, you've been with the company 15 years, and you obviously, Yvonne's been around it a lot longer. Well, Winnitex has always had the notoriety as being innovators. I think you were one of the first companies in the Asian hemisphere to actually start using wider looms. I think most of the cuttable width looms are 43 inches out in the Asian hemisphere, and so you've introduced 57, 58-inch cuttable. What type of loom width are you using now predominantly in Nicaragua? Is it 57, 58 cuttable?
Correct. 57, usually, and we do this for our workwear customers just because they get a better efficiency from their automatic cutters. You're right, for Winnitex, we started in the fashion business, and the fashion business, everything's always changing. So we're always trying to find solutions for our customers. And bringing that into workwear is something very exciting, because we can bring something innovative to the workwear space. And I think this is the right time.
Yeah.
When we first started on workwear, it was very traditional, 100% cotton, 65-35s,
Yeah.
no stretch. Once in a while you get some crease, blues, blacks, and that's changing. And this change really fits with our strengths as Winnitex.
Cool. Well, and now I can tell the audience here with great, assuredness that the couple programs I did, I believe I was doing, one of them was a 108 by 56 fabric that I ran. And then the other was a 128 by 60, maybe 20 by 16s, I think I was using it. And what's interesting is, the third party testing, of course, we had to test all this fabric for, color fastness to light, like anybody does, tensile strength, tear strength, all these things, shrinkage. And, I can just remember vividly that, the company I was with, Oxford Industries at the time, and, we noticed the test results came back so strong. I mean, it was just such a good, buying decision going to Winnitex Fabrics, the one because there's a lot of converters out there that are buying open market gray goods, and, and you're the vertical operation doing it all, and you just have more governances over things. And so I thought that was a great byproduct of making a buying decision to source Winnitex Fabrics. And I would imagine that's done nothing but get better over time, correct?
Yes, correct. Thank you so much. And that's actually basically why we went step by step upstream. We started as a dye and finishing mill, and then we started doing weaving in the 90s so that we can have a better control of our quality and to have better solutions for our customers. And ultimately, we went to spinning, and we learned spinning. I actually had to go through that process, and that was a pet project of mine that I really enjoyed. is right from the fiber, we can do things for our customers. We can ensure the quality.
Yeah.
Again, I'm in charge of purchasing the raw material as well, so that we make sure right from the beginning we have consistent quality throughout the process, and we can create innovation at various steps for our customer. And we can also, with this kind of vertical integration, provide a scale of efficiency, which we pass down to our customers.
Well, and it's so let me just go, spend some time on 6535 and polycotton rip, for instance. I mean, I have a lot of familiarity with that in the uniform space. And what was interesting when you start chasing a lot of production needs and you start buying open market gray goods that now you're sending to a converter, what tends to happen, and I'm going to let you speak to this a little bit, is that, if you're buying gray goods from Pakistan and you're also blending productions with gray goods that are coming from northern China, you've got different insects, you've got different soil, you've got different effects on the fabric. And so then when you start testing these things, and when you start looking at shrinkage and tensile strength and tear strength and all those characteristics that in the uniform industry are extremely essential to have, product that year to year, die lot to die lot, production run to production run has to be consistent. And speak to that a little bit, because being a vertical operation, you've got the ability to govern that. And I would particularly like you to speak to in this, the traceability of raw materials. You have that baked into your company DNA. So speak to that whole ball of wax, if you could, because I think the listeners would want to hear that.
Yes, every roll of finished fabric shipped from Winnitex has a QR code, which can be scanned and has all the information about how this roll of fabric was created, from the chemistry to the raw material. And you're absolutely right. From the raw material is very important, especially in the cotton, because for our production, we select the right blend and we keep it consistent in strength, and especially for dyeing the micronair. If you're sourcing from different areas, the cotton will be different and it will absorb the dyes differently. It will perform differently. Right. So then you're going to have a lot of lot changes. And this is something we don't do. For workwear, we do it all in-house, just so that we can have that consistency. The second is during even the spinning process, how it's done, whether it's OE, whether it's MBS, how you're doing the blends, how you're doing the efficiency, how are you testing strength. You're getting inconsistencies if one was to buy from different suppliers. And sometimes that just happens. And weaving, let's just say we set everything up, we give the requirements to, let's say, if we were to source from other people. But one of the things is what kind of sizing are they using? The sizing, is it starch based? Are they adding wax? Is it other things? This also affects the performance, because during the dyeing process, you have to take that size off. Is it environmentally friendly? Is it hurting the fabric? There's so many variables if one was to source from outside that causes inconsistencies in the final fabric, especially for workwear. That's why it's so important to have something that's vertical and getting it right from the beginning, where we are traceable not only on the fabric, but also on the cotton. We buy American cotton, so each bale is traceable with the bale ID.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad you mentioned that, the sizing and everything. I mean, this is so important in that part of the production process. And this is where I would encourage people, if they really want to learn more about it, spend some, reach out to you and try to, get a trip to Nicaragua, put on the calendar, because, you're going to be able to see things in action like this. And again, I think that when you take a look at just color, you could expose, if you're buying gray goods from various geographic locations, Pakistan, Egypt, Australia, New Zealand, northern China, and you're exposing it to the same Ciba-Geigy dye stuffs, those fabrics those gray goods are going to absorb it and then interpret it in the visual appearance differently. They just are.
Absolutely.
And there's no way around that. When you're speaking to an end user that says, why do my 1,800 employees have 6 different shades of navy on their bodies when I really want, a tighter shade band? Well, one of the ways to achieve that is to go to a vertical operation that.
Absolutely. And what's even more important are the washdowns, especially for the rental workwear customers. And Unfortunately, there are companies, let's say if they're dyeing and they're getting inconsistencies, they might do a little over dyeing just to make sure that
Yes.
a little dye stuff on the surface to make sure it looks consistent. But those things don't last on the washdowns.
Yeah.
That's really important. And for us, we test it out. We have our own industrial laundry machines. We test it out to 100 IL. Internally, we test out to 120. So we make sure our washdowns are very, very consistent.
Very good. Very well. I really appreciate you spending some time on that. I'm glad we flushed some of that out because it really is. I think a lot of times, we can simplify it too much on the end user end and on the the customer wearing experience end when they really, it's not as simple as it may seem. It's a little more complex, and there's definitive reasons why your fabrics, your garments are shrinking at different rates, and they're looking, they're fading at different rates. The fade rate is something that again comes with where you're the multiplicity of the you know regions you're sourcing gray goods from could have an effect on that. So I think it's great stuff, and thank you for spending time on that. Where do you, Winnitex in the future, what do you have on the horizon? As what are you embarking on as far as innovation and developments over the next couple of years?
I think one of the key things is to introduce more comfort and performance to our customers, even some fashion concepts to our workwear customers. I think that's been very
Yeah.
popular. I think stretch will be big. If you don't have stretch, it's hard to stay in the workwear
Yeah.
business in the
Yeah.
future. Before, it was ladies, but even I myself, I don't want to go back to non-stretch
Yeah.
pants. So I think that's very important, and also some things that look sharp, that look fashionable,
Sure.
and that performs well, that's environmentally friendly and sustainable, and that's traceable. So I think these are aspects that we're working very hard on, and that we have been successful, and we think will provide more and more innovative products for our customers in the coming years.
Sure. And your sustainability and all that information is well presented on the website. So anybody looking for that can certainly find it there. And I think it's interesting, you have this fashion background. One of the things in the uniform space now, especially when you get to hospitality, when you get to the airline industry, you want sharp looks, you want something current, you want something that has some fashion built into it, and functionality and durability. And so
Yes.
what's cool about you guys, you have that fashion longevity in your company DNA, and so you shop the markets, you understand what's current trends are, what current fashion trends are across the globe. Is that right or wrong?
Absolutely. We keep it a priority, and we still do quite a bit of fashion for our company. So we keep it a priority to stay ahead of the game. With Winnitex, we're a little different from other companies in the sense that it's not a customer coming to us saying, okay, this is what we want. Can you guys make this? What price? We basically do the R&D for our customers. We know what our customers want,
Sure.
and we present to them what we think is the future. And usually we've been quite good at that. So we're very well in touch with the market trends, whether it's the fashion side or, let's say, new technologies in the comfort or the performance, or even the production side, that we can keep our company at the leading edge, and we can translate that into volume for our workwear customers.
Yeah, well, very, very good. I appreciate that. What do you, as an outsider 15 years ago coming into it, and now you're settled into the operations side, and your Nicaragua's up and running, and working well. What do you see in this industry that that we need more of, or that we're missing in the uniform industry at this point,
Hmm.
or if
I
any?
think for the American workwear industry, to be honest, I see there are a lot of opportunities. I believe there's more of a need for innovation. I think the customer wants that. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time for them to get too used to it. And what I meant by innovation were the three things I was talking about. I was talking about whether it's performance, comfort, and sustainability. And also, we need more nearshore solutions. To be honest, I think there's not enough for on this side of the hemisphere. And Asia, I think, will always have the advantages over there. But one of the key things is to build up that supply chain. It's not just a die factory, but a full supply chain over here on this side of the hemisphere.
No, I think that's a well put. I think that the more we can, we kind of abandon, we had all this infrastructure and we had all this supply chain down pat in the 90s, and we started to just, on the USA side here and in the, certainly shift a lot of our energies manufacturing and raw materials wise to 807, which is the, down where you are in Nicaragua, or, out to Asia for sure. And then we kind of left ourselves vacant and in a position where we were, if we had to quickly rely on, the North American community for raw materials and supply chain needs, it wasn't there. And so, you're part of a building up that, building that back together here, knitting that back together for us. And you speak to work in process times. I mean, if someone were to place an order for fabric, Monday, I mean, what are you looking at in terms of X factory timing on something like that?
It's a rather complicated question because if they place an order, it depends on if it's something that we already do,
Yep.
or if it's a product that's completely new that we're developing for them. If it's something that we are already doing, that's something that is just for a new customer, the turnaround time is quite quick. We can make that, let's say, and it also depends on how busy the factory is. I don't want to give exact dates and not be able to follow up on those, but we try to make sure that we satisfy every customer on a timely manner. If it's something with development, and we're very good at having very fast development compared to the companies that other companies I know of out there. Now, I want to go back a little bit to what you were saying before about North America, especially the U.S. What I think for this industry, one of the key things that I see is not only the loss of factories, it's the loss of experts that are going into this field. The U.S. probably had the world's leading experts in textiles in the 70s, 80s, maybe early 90s. And there was a lot of patents made. Basically, the world was following what the U.S. said. And those individuals, those professionals have gotten older, they're retired, some have passed on, and there's not enough new blood here. I think that's what I see. There are people that are studying textiles, maybe they're going to sales, but really understanding the core technology, really understanding how to develop that. I think we need more of those here in the States.
Yes, I would agree. Yeah, my father-in-law is from Argentina, and he was part of this. They needed chemical engineers back in the 60s, so they went down to South America, and in particular, got about 6,500 of these, college graduates, and brought them into the States. And my father-in-law was hired by Milliken Textiles, and so Milliken brought him in and said, "Hey, as long as you work for us for a couple of years, we want you to learn. We'll pay for your schooling, but we need you to come over here, and hopefully you'll stay with us." And sign a 2-year contract, and he went to ExxonMobil after that. But you're right, there was a real feeder element to textile, to the collegiate academic end of textiles that's probably fallen off. I haven't read up on it enough to know, but you're living it. So yeah, I think it's true. The more we can shift and start to build a pipeline of interested academic involvement. I mean, it's there. There's some colleges that certainly focus on it, no question about it. But I think the more we can build that back up, then we can have enthusiastic people that are ready to go and ready to plug and play.
Absolutely. And especially these days, there's so many exciting things going on. An individual doesn't need to exactly go to a textile school, but as long as this individual learns about material sciences, manufacturing processes, it's all engineering, electricians, it's all very interesting.
Absolutely. And if they're like you, they're smiling at the fact that they get to problem solve every day. You know, I mean,
Yes.
it lights a fire, right? So, let's ask a question. So let's say you've got some kids and, they're wondering what to do for their career. Would you recommend this industry for any of your loved ones or family members?
For me, yes. It's not an easy industry. I think you have to pay your dues. But what's beautiful about this industry is once you're in a position where you can make decisions yourself, you can take it in any direction you want.
Yeah.
For example, if you like the fashion side, the artistic side, you can do that. If you want the technical side, you can do that. Let's say in workwear and manufacturing. If you like the high tech side, there's things to do in that. So there's so many options that a person can do and express themselves and delve into in this industry. That's very, very interesting. And it's not a overly congested industry.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of room to grow for an individual to really make an impact.
I don't know about other people. I've certainly talked to people in the apparel industry, not so much the uniform, but once we get into it, and it happened to me, once I got into it in 1992, it just bit me, and it was contagious. I really loved it. Of course, not everybody has that experience, but I hope more people have that than don't. And I think this industry is exciting. There is a need for good people to come into it. We are definitely a industry that is more creative than a lot of people think. We're more innovative. We are more technically advanced than a lot of people probably think.
Yes.
And it is an exciting atmosphere to be part of.
Absolutely. And
Charles, if you could speak on behalf of Winnitex, and just if you could select the most important message you could leave with listeners today about Winnitex, what would that message be?
Winnitex, we're here to provide a solution for our customers that I think not only will they be satisfied, but they'll be amazed. And that is my personal goal. And we look forward to doing this with our customers and working together with them to create something that's amazing. And I am very optimistic about that, especially in this hemisphere.
Well, Charles, is there anything I forgot to ask you that you'd like to highlight, or anything else you would like to share with the audience?
We're just talking about this industry, and one thing is what I really enjoyed about this industry, not only all the different aspects that one can get into. This industry, what I really love is the people in this industry. I've always had great experiences with the people in this industry, from the cotton farmer to the end customer. It's, once in a while, you might have a difficult conversation, but overall, it's been a great experience. Just great people, hardworking people. This is not an industry for people who are not passionate, who are not hardworking. And being with people like that, you just feel the positive energy.
Sure.
And it's a wonderful experience.
Well, that's awesome. Well, listen, if you're ever in the Boot Hill, Missouri, or in the Memphis area, give me a holler. I'll shoot down. I'm in St. Louis, and that's certainly some cotton country there. And I love the fact that you deal with the farmers directly, and that is so cool and very, very, very nice. Well, listen, folks, again, Winnitex.com. Yvonne is, I know her contact information is on some of the NAUMD shared paperwork and contact lists. So feel free to reach out to her. Charles, it has been a pleasure speaking with you. It really has. And we thank you for coming on to the Uniformer podcast today. And we just hope you enjoy the rest of your time in the States here.
Thank you, Jeff. I had a great time.